Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured, why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description, and in every episode description, I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say, I'm watching so-and-so show. And then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it. And that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here for a new movie review. I'm here to talk about the new Christopher Nolan film, Oppenheimer. So let's start with what we already know. Directed by Christopher Nolan. If you went to go see Oppenheimer, you're probably already familiar with his work. He's directed the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Interstellar, The Prestige, Memento, Tenet, like all of these great movies that I think often really challenge not just our minds, but what we come to expect when we go to a movie theater. Like generally, you know, you go and you're like, I'm gonna have a good time. I watch this thing that's mildly entertaining, get some laughs. But he puts you in a position where you have to challenge yourself. He puts you in a position to where you appreciate things about film that you might not appreciate before, like sound. So you already know what you're getting out of a Christopher Nolan film. And then of course this cast. Cillian Murphy in the lead role, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., the list, I'm just reading it directly from my notes. Josh Hartnett, Florence Pugh, Matthew Modine, Alden Ehrenreich, Jason Clarke, Tony Goldwyn, Kenneth Branagh, Jack Quaid, Casey Affleck, Gary Oldman, Josh Peck, Rami Malek. Like, I mean, this cast was fucking stacked. Like, this cast was so stacked that they, by and large, had Rami Malek in a non-speaking background role. And I'm just like, how stacked is your cast that if I didn't already know that was Rami Malek, I'd be like, that guy's not even important. But let me just start by saying, though, this is an absolutely outstanding film, top to bottom, magnificently acted by all parties involved. And like I said, when you're talking about a Christopher Nolan film, it's gonna look absolutely breathtaking. Again, the sound is going to be like nothing you ever heard. I absolutely encourage you to go see this in whatever the fanciest fucking version you have in your town is, just because like is it a great movie without it? Of course, but like Christopher Nolan, it feels like he's very intentional with every decision that he makes, and I just feel like you're robbing yourself of the experience if you're not experiencing it in the way that he intended. And you can tell the sound is not just, let's make sure we hear it. It's a feature of the movie, you know, so make sure you get like, you know, those good, we got Dolby Digital, whatever the fuck, you know, all that good shit. But, and then the score is by Ludwig Göransson, who he was also Nolan's composer on Tenet. He did Wakanda Forever, and then also he does, I thought I heard somebody hit my window. Anyway, and of course he does the theme to The Mandalorian, which is probably my favorite theme on television right now. So when I started mentally preparing to talk about this movie, I intended on starting with pointing out that I feel like the reactions were a bit hyperbolic. So like talk of the movie being important or terrifying, those descriptors felt like a little bit much to me, but then I realized I was kind of doing something that I don't like what others do. And it's kind of similar to when you have someone who's read the book that a movie or a show is based on. Like, they'll judge the show or the movie based on their previous knowledge of the material because they've read the book, and they'll compare it to what they know from the book. And like I've always said, don't judge the show or the film as an adaptation, judge it as what it is. But I was kind of doing the same in this scenario. It's not exactly the same one for one, but like I dig history and politics. I'm a savant by no means. I don't know everything there is to know, but I know more than the average person, and it interests me. So a lot of the themes that are explored in this film, which in my opinion, the themes that are explored are the best aspect of the movie. These are ideas and concepts that I was already familiar with, and I'd already given them like so much thought because I was already familiar with what had happened and a lot of the moral quandary surrounding this scenario. But if you're somebody who doesn't know who Oppenheimer is or what he did, or maybe you're unfamiliar with the bombings and what led to them or the aftermath, then I could see this being one of those things where you're just like, wow, I didn't realize the gravity of this situation, because it's not like this is isolated to this time. Like, this is a perpetual situation that we are in, and I dialed back my finger wagging on the hyperbole, but I think it's one of those things, just as I get older, things that adults will learn via movies or television is sometimes gonna be shit that I just fucking remember because I was there. And this obviously is not that, but I'm just saying, like, I have to keep in mind now that things that don't feel like history to me, or that feel like things that I have explored, it's just I've been alive longer. I don't know, but like I said, I'm not trying to sound holier than thou or super educated. But my point is that I need to realize that just because these events and ideas weren't new to me doesn't mean they're not new to others. So for someone to come out of the movie like, holy shit, that actually happened, that's a justifiable, feasible, likely response. And given that, yeah, I'd say it's a pretty important film, because the ideas discussed, like I said, they're not unique to this movie. They're applicable in all aspects of life. They're still applicable today. Like, I am fucking up applicable. I'm gonna keep saying it until I get it right. Applicable. There we go. So, but the film explores moral ideas like, if I have the ability to make this powerful weapon that can destroy the world, should I? But what if someone else who I consider to be a bad guy also has that ability? Is it not it's not even like, should I gotta beat them to it. They make it almost like a moral obligation. Like, is it my duty to make it before them, just in case I can stop them if they get out of pocket? Like, you paint the other person as the bad guy in order to justify what eventually becomes you being the bad guy, like taking the bad actions. And that's what happens in the movie and in real life, obviously. But those are the kind of things that I found the most compelling about the film. And then counterpoint, who's to say you won't be corrupted by said super weapon? So you're and they say this in the movie, I think, and I think I have it in my notes. Yeah, he says something like, I think I can't remember if it was Matt Damon's character or Robert Downey Jr., but he said something like, I don't know if we can be trusted with a weapon of that power, but I know the Nazis can't. But deep down, that's not why you're doing it. But I've always loved that debate, because deep down, I don't even believe it to really be a thing. Like, it's just what those people use to justify what they do anyway, because men want to be great. Like, if you can create something that's never been made before and you'll get credit for it, you're gonna fucking do it. And I thought that was cool too about Oppenheimer as portrayed in the film. I don't want to make it sound like I know him, but there was a constant muddying, I think, of where Oppenheimer stood on virtually every issue. And the issue of saying aloud, we are doing this for insert holy purpose, when deep down it really is for the glory. Like, that's something that I feel like Cillian Murphy did a great job of kind of playing that imbalance of, like, not really knowing, like, how does he really feel on this? But I'm kind of spinning away from my notes here. But let's see, where was I? So actually, I made a perfect segue. I think this is a good moment to segue into probably my favorite aspect of the movie, which is Cillian Murphy's performance here. Like, just like I was saying that I don't believe these sorts of decisions are really about what's right or wrong. It's about basically showing how big your dick is. Cillian Murphy does an excellent job of playing Oppenheimer with this level of moral ambiguity where you can't really tell how he feels. And for the entirety of the movie, Murphy plays Oppenheimer in a way where you're basically wondering if he's like this extremely cunning mastermind or like the most naive man in the history of time. And I just love not being able to fully read how he truly felt, but very easily being able to read how tortured he was with the decisions that he faced. And there was so much complexity in playing this role for Murphy. And I don't know, it's probably my favorite performance of his. And I just expect a multitude of award nominations at minimum. He played Oppenheimer as a very tortured soul, burdened by genius, but also by great responsibility. But then he also just might be a piece of shit too. And I don't know, I really like that. I like not knowing and feeling like you could come down on either side of all of these kind of like, is he this or is he this? You could fall on either side of that and make a pretty good case for it. And then they have this political aspect of the movie as well. On one hand, Oppenheimer is the brilliant mind that can help the United States build an atomic bomb before its enemies. But on the other hand, is he working for the enemy? Like, a big plot line in the film is how Oppenheimer has a shit ton of communist friends and family, but has never officially been a party member. And despite numerous causes for concern, he's considered so vital to the creation of the bomb that his communist affiliations are overlooked and he's granted security clearance. And in these moments, like, Murphy plays Oppenheimer with such like this high level of naivete that I'm watching the movie and I'm like, no way someone this smart could be this stupid. Maybe he is a communist. And I'm just like, I don't know. He just has these, it's just like he thinks, he's only thinking of the scientific aspect of it and he's not thinking of the way it's going to get used. But then I'm like, but is he thinking of the way it's going to get used and he just plays stupid? And then, because it's like, he said like, no one's going to get this information. And the Russians pop up with information that only could have been retrieved from his Los Alamos site where the bomb is being made. And you can imagine how that makes him look. So I want to close by talking about some of the broader aspects of the film that I liked and that I didn't like. So, for starters, this isn't your typical Christopher Nolan flick with some sort of mind fuckery or overly complicated dream within a dream and all this kind of shit. It's a pretty straightforward biopic. But it does jump around to various points in time pretty consistently. And it can take you a minute to kind of like gather your bearings of what time and location you're in when you move from one scene to the next. They put some of them in black and white. That kind of helps. But eventually you get it. And the reason for the jumps becomes clear by the end. And I think also the end is a sticking point for some. It's a 3-hour movie. It's long. This isn't a 3 hours that breezes by. For me, and I think for most, it's consistently interesting. But don't get me wrong, it's not broken up like by big action set pieces like a 3-hour Avengers movie might be. But that the first 2 hours have a very consistent tone, feel to them. You're getting one sort of film, and in that third hour, it shifts a little bit, and I don't want to say it becomes something different. I think it becomes what it was leading into being the whole time. But the third hour, if you're really into the first two, you might not be into the last one so much. I've heard some people have been kind of just like, I don't really like what it became in the third hour. I thought about it, and then I did what I always do, which is rely on how I felt at the time. At the time, I noticed kind of like the shift. I'm like, this is becoming kind of like a courtroom drama now. But I noticed the shift, and then I'm like, well, this is where we were going anyway. And I just watched it, and I enjoyed it for that aspect of what it was too. So I felt like if I were to get in front of you guys and go, I didn't like how it changed from this to that, I would really be allowing other people's feedback to pollute my own feedback. And I said, well, what did I feel in the moment? And I was like, Michael, you noticed it. You said, okay, it's this now. And this felt like the natural progression of where it was going. And now let me enjoy it for this. So all that to kind of say it changes toward the end and becomes something a bit different that may or may not be your cup of tea. I didn't have any issues with it, so I'm not gonna pretend like I did. But it's noticeable, but I mean, not in any negative sort of way, at least for me. But where was I? A lot of this time, this 3-hour runtime is spent establishing a lot of the themes and questions I've already mentioned, but showing us a bit of Oppenheimer's past as well to help us understand who he is, not just as a scientist, but as a husband and a father. We learned some interesting stuff about him in that regard as well. But those scenes can be a little bit repetitive. At least they felt repetitive at the time. But this could cause some of you to get bored. I don't know. I remember thinking like, okay, there were certain things that I felt like they were really hammering home the point on who he is and what kind of guy he is. I'm like, all right, I get it. Like we could have got a couple of these scenes out of here. But lastly, I want to close. I already said I want to close, so I guess I was full of shit the first time I said it. But I want to close talking about this cast in a little bit more detail, because everybody who was in this was incredible, and they were trotting out so many great actors left and right. Like I said, I read off all the names, but Emily Blunt, she plays Oppenheimer's wife. She doesn't do much, and I'm not trying to shade her at all, but she doesn't do much, I think, in order to lend a bit more of an impact to a scene when she does do much, and it did work. So that's what I'll play. That's what I'll say about her character. But yeah, I was reading what I wrote in my notes, and I feel like what I already said is sufficient. Jason Clarke is in this, who I often confuse with Joel Edgerton. He brings the same kind of like piece of shit energy that he brings to a lot of the stuff I've seen him in. Most recently, Jerry West on Winning Time. Similar kind of guy. You would have choked the life out of him on there as well. But he's good at making you hate him, as Edgerton is as well. But he's great in this. Jason Clarke. Matt Damon. I mean, he's Matt Damon. I was just telling my wife that I don't know if I've ever seen a Matt Damon movie that I at least didn't like him in. Like, ever since Good Will Hunting, I've been a fan of this guy, him and Affleck, who's blossomed into quite the director. Matt Damon is Matt Damon. You can't. I mean, there's nothing you can say, man. He's great. He's always great. And then, shocker, between this and Black Mirror, Josh Hartnett seems to be having something of a career resurgence. He was great in this as well. Really, really good. Kenneth Branagh is Niels Bohr. You just trot him out. Jack Quaid from The Boys. Most recently, he's in this. Casey Affleck for a hot minute. Gary Oldman plays Harry Truman. Like, I didn't even know he was in this. And I'm just watching. I'm like, is that Gary Oldman? Like, I didn't even know it was him at first. And then, of course, Robert Downey Jr. He's magnificent. Also likely to get an Oscar nomination. I wouldn't be surprised if he also wins. Again, I mean, obviously I haven't seen all the nominees or anything like that, but sometimes, this feels like something that they would do, they being the Hollywood elite, like, Robert Downey Jr., Oscar time. It feels like that's bubbling up in the air. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Absolutely earned. He's incredible. For most of the movie, we see his character as someone who's preparing for a Senate confirmation hearing to be Secretary of Commerce. He knows that he's going to get hit with questions about his relationship with Oppenheimer, and a lot of the film sets up why he will be questioned about Oppenheimer. And like, this movie does that a lot. They kind of set up things that you're going to want to know about later. Because like, they'll say something like, you're going to get questioned about Oppenheimer, right? Yeah, but we'll talk about that later. You're just like, why would he be questioned about Oppenheimer? What's the relationship? Like, they set those kinds of things up. They do that a lot in here. But yeah, they set that up about him being questioned about Oppenheimer, and the movie kind of plays out into not just that's the courtroom shift that it moves into his committee hearing. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, that to me felt like what they were leading into, so I didn't mind the change. But anyway, talk about career resurgence with Josh Hartnett. Like, after the life that Robert Downey Jr. has had and the path he's been on, like, after this movie, I'd say the probability of him becoming Oscar winner Robert Downey Jr. is probably pretty fucking high. He might have already won an Oscar for all I know. I didn't bother to look it up. But yeah, cast top to bottom, outstanding. Look at sound of the film, remarkable. Moral and ethical quandaries, scary, timely, and thoughtful, thought-provoking, informative, thrilling, tense. It has it all, man. It's a great one. The rest of the 2023 slate, got a big shadow or a big mushroom cloud to step out from under. So except Dune 2, man. Dune 2 is already there. But I will see you guys hopefully in advance of Dune 2, which will hopefully still come out this year. Let me know what you thought about Oppenheimer in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.